This was, thankfully, a scene we got to enjoy once again in 2021. Real people, in the flesh, faces bared, enjoying time together in the outdoors. We at the Monadnock Conservancy have been so grateful to be together with you again this year, whether it was at our September annual celebration in Peterborough or on hikes like this at Mountain Brook Reservoir in Jaffrey. It has been another extraordinary year, and we thank you for being part of it. Yet, as much as we celebrate this togetherness, it is still important to recognize that feelings of unity in our society have been hard to come by lately. It has been said that love of land is a great unifier, yet even climate change and environmental protection are still among the most divided issues. We need to get past the us versus them mentality. We need to identify what we value in common, build trust and understanding, and see if we can work together. And I think we're starting to do just that at the Monadnock Conservancy. These are some of the children who attend the Winchester Learning Center, a daycare and preschool that serves families in Winchester, New Hampshire and surrounding communities. This photo was taken last November. They were out on a walk from the center, exploring this line of flags and holes across a wetland. Just a few weeks later, that line became this. And by the end of the summer, it looked like this. At the end of the boardwalk is a trail. This is the Winchester Learning Center Community Nature Park, the culmination of a years-long collaboration between the center and the Monadnock Conservancy, and the vision of Roberta Royce, the center's executive director. Did the center know anything about building trails? No. Did the Monadnock Conservancy know anything about early childhood development? No again. But when we combined our specialties, look what we could do. The park, which officially opened this fall, is a place for the children of the Winchester Learning Center and people of all ages in the community to play and explore in a natural landscape. Now, does this little patch of green on the edge of downtown Winchester harbor any rare species? Probably not, and it probably won't make much of a dent in solving climate change. But that's not the point. Will it make a difference in the lives of children to start with a strong developmental foundation of nature play? Absolutely. And will the mission of land conservation be advanced because those children have that foundation? And because a community can experience nature without having to get into a car? We think it will. Trails got a lot of attention back in 2020 when people had little else to do, and that's when we opened new trail networks at Cunningham Pond in Peterborough and the Chamberlain Conservation Area at Sip Pond in Fitzwilliam. This year, we turned back to some of the trails we've maintained for a long time. This was the Wetland Boardwalk on the Cranberry Meadow Pond Trail, just off Old Street Road in Peterborough. It looks to be pretty passable in this photo, and often it was, but the boards were sitting in direct contact with the wet soil, leading to rot, and each spring high water would scatter the planks all over. We got tired of rebuilding it year after year, and because our land manager, Rick Brackett, had become a boardwalk expert building the one in Winchester, we decided to do it the right way, once and for all. It started with volunteers building frames. These were carried into place, bolted to rot-resistant white oak posts, and finally decked. Now you can safely cross the wetland without soaking your boots and without harming the wetland soil. Lest you think all we do now is build trails, our Land Protection Department is currently experiencing one of its busiest periods in years, managing more than 24 land conservation transactions in various stages. Protecting land permanently is still at the heart of what we do. The signature conservation success of the past year was the purchase of the Gertrude Russell Forest in Dublin from the Girl Scouts of the Green and White Mountains. The property is strategically located in a growing corridor of conservation land stretching north from Mount Monadnock and into Harrisville. It also features frontage on White Pond and Howe Reservoir, and it includes more than a half-mile of the Monadnock Sunapee Greenway Trail. Among the many projects still currently underway, farms remain a top priority. Piccadilly Farm is a 71-acre certified organic vegetable farm in Winchester. Bruce and Jenny Wooster own and operate it as a community-supported agriculture, or CSA, farm, providing shares of the harvest to 1,000 households. They also sell their vegetables at their farm store and at other local retailers, including the Monadnock Co-op in Keene. The prior farmers had sold a conservation easement on 46 of the acres to the state of New Hampshire. Our purchase of an easement on the remaining acres will complete the protection of the entire property and allow Bruce and Jenny to reinvest in the business. In Walpole, we're working again with Pete's Stand, a third-generation farm stand, to use conservation to help secure the future of their business. John and Teresa Janison are the third generation to operate the stand, but up until recently, John's family never owned any of the land on which they grew produce. Rather, their access to the land they farmed was always based on handshake agreements, which worked for a long time. Yet, in recent years, they've lost access to fields that became a dollar store, a gas station, and a tractor supply. To stop that trend, they finally purchased this 7-acre field north of the farm stand earlier this year. The Conservancy's purchase of a conservation easement on the land this winter will both protect it in perpetuity and help John and Teresa recoup some of their initial investment, thereby making affordable a land purchase that otherwise might not have been. Finally, we need to acknowledge the unsung heroes of the Monadnock Conservancy, our stewardship staff. These are the guys who, along with volunteers under their supervision, visit every one of our 200-plus conservation easement-protected properties every year and make sure the rules are being followed. Alex and Richard rarely get the glory because, when they do their job successfully, nothing happens. But, as it turns out, good conservation stewardship can be about more than just preventing bad things from happening. It can also be about helping good things happen. And in fact, Richard and Alex have superpowers. Richard can make whole trees bend with just the tip of his finger. And Alex can tear holes in steel with his bare hands. But what are their powers in the face of runaway invasive species like this Japanese knotweed? Or these clumps of multiflora rose the size of cars? What can they do to combat these plants that alter ecosystems by crowding out native species? Their power here is in collaboration. Alex and Richard may not be able to eradicate knotweed or multiflora rose themselves, but they know who can, and so they can connect landowners with the experts and programs that can get the work done. This is that same field of invasive rose months later. Climate change is a more formidable opponent, and in this region, it seems to manifest in more extreme weather, especially rainstorms that blow out culverts, clogging streams and rivers with sediment, or saturating soil so completely that it simply slumps away, or disappears down a sinkhole. Again, Alex and Richard, all of us really, are not powerless in the face of climate change. And again, collaboration is the key. Here's an example. This section of the Cold River in Walpole, just above the confluence with the Connecticut River, has been eroding severely ever since a flood in 2005 destabilized its banks. With each major storm, more and more of the rich farm soil on both sides, both of which are conserved, was washed away toward the Atlantic Ocean. But a collaboration formed between the two landowners, the Conservancy, and the Natural Resources Conservation Service to fight back. This past summer, a team of engineers with heavy equipment armored the riverbanks, but not with giant boulders or riprap. Those brown clumps you see aren't bushes. They're the root balls of massive trees buried in the riverbank. These root masses will slow the river during high water events, preventing erosion so that the riverbank can naturally revegetate. In time, all the timber will decompose, but the new vegetation should be able to hold the riverbank in place naturally. We are shifting the paradigm at the Monadnock Conservancy, but we're not scrapping the old one. We're still conserving land, acre by acre and property by property. But we are deploying new tools and new partnerships and serving new beneficiaries to ensure both the land and people thrive together. Thank you for making that possible.